Anyway, welcome to Thomas Podcast, Lucy. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for asking. So let's go back to the beginning. When did your love for football started?
Ooh, it's a good question. I feel like it's actually always just been something that I've loved. I've loved playing, I've loved watching. Um, and I feel like, yeah, I owe a lot to football. I feel like a lot of football fans say that because it has brought this community. But for me, it started when I was 5 years old. I wanted to go to lots of after school clubs. And I said to my mum, I had loads of leaflets and I was like, oh, which one should I go to? And she was like, why don't you go to that one as well? And it was a football club. I was the only girl for most of primary school. So from the age of about 5 to 11, I think maybe for a couple of years there was one other girl, and then I joined an external team. And then that's sort of when I started playing it and then actually watching football. I was a little bit older, I want to say like a teenager. I started going to Arsenal Women with my dad when I was about 10 years old, which was really good because he wanted to show me the best team in England, and that was Arsenal Women at that time. Now it's a bit debatable. It could be between Chelsea, City, Arsenal, United. They're all up there, but at the time it literally was Arsenal because this is about 12, 13 years ago. And then, yeah, a few years after that, then I thought, okay, I'm supporting the women. I might as well look at what the men are doing. And I started supporting them. So I guess that's sort of a quick summary of how I got into supporting Arsenal, but also loving football.
So your dad is an Arsenal fan.
No, that's the that's the funny thing. He he grew up sort of Battersea area, loved watching Wimbledon play, the likes of Vinnie Jones, that sort of era.
Oh,
And
wow.
then he met like randomly he met some supporters and ended up supporting Carlisle as well. So it's pretty random, but because growing up he wanted me to see, which I appreciate a lot, especially now when I reflect on it, he wanted me to see women playing at the best, and that was Arsenal at that point. So we're from South
Mm.
London. We travel pretty much every weekend all the way up to North London, which takes a couple hours on like trains and buses and tubes, things like that. But yeah, he just wanted me to see women play at the top level. So then he's kind of through me now. I think because I've got so much passion for Arsenal, especially the women's side. I think now he's sort of like on board with the women's side, but in terms of the men's game, he's not an Arsenal fan at all.
Not yet. Never know.
Not yet. That's
Since
true.
20
That's true. There's
22
still
years
time.
for title, that's an achievement. So hopefully that changes mind a little bit.
That is very true. That is very true.
So you've been playing football. When did you realize that you wanted to do more than playing, that you want to actually be like a journalist? When did that realization came?
I mean, I feel like it was around about 15, 16 years old. I was like, football is just something that's fun. I'd never in my head, I think growing up you had the idea, oh, I'd love to be a footballer, that would be cool, but I never really saw that necessarily happening, especially when I got to about 15, 16 years old. And I was like, yeah, this is not going to be a career, but I love playing it, just Sunday league sort of football. And then at school, I feel like I had loads of different careers that I sort of wanted to go into, but when I got to about 17 picking what A levels I wanted to do. I was like, okay, I want to go and be a physiotherapist. I want to see if I can go down that route. Then was like, oh, actually, I'm not really a huge fan of science. I'm not that great at it. So I thought, let me just change my vibe. And I think it's only since then getting my A levels at then obviously 18, then I was like, okay, so what uni should I go to? And a random teacher was like, oh, why don't you do sports media? That's quite a cool degree. And I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that was a possibility. So then I applied for UCFB, which is the University Campus of Football Business in Wembley, and saw that you could have some of your lectures literally in the boxes right by the stadium, like right in the stadium, right by the pitch. And I was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. So I sort of
Oh.
just applied, and I feel like that was probably the moment that I was like, okay, maybe this could be a career. But even then, I feel like some of my friends were going to uni, someone, it wasn't necessarily what you do as your degree you take into actually a career. But I do feel like that was getting to uni, that was the point where I was like, okay, like maybe this could become a career. And then that was, well, 5 years ago. Now I'm 23. That the last 5 years I've sort of been navigating how to study as well as try get some experience in the last couple of years working full time at Talksport. So yeah, it's sort of just happened rather than me actively being
Mm.
like, I'm not playing, let me still work in sport, because until a couple of years ago when I was at uni, I was still playing football, but just for fun. It was nothing serious or competitive at that point.
Wow, I love that journey that you explained. Wow, it's like things sort of happen, but I feel like you see it happen, but I feel like you also work for it. So in a
Hmm.
sense, I feel like you made them happen. So talk to us about, you have been working for the women team of Leo Bay. I think no, or maybe not. You've done the podcast for the women, right? Am I right? You talked to the
Yeah,
podcast.
I had a podcast. I actually stopped doing it about 2 weeks ago because it was just quite hard. I mean, obviously, as someone you do a podcast yourself, it's just
Yeah.
quite hard to maintain getting a guest on every week, making sure that I'm then reflecting all the games. And because it was called the Arsenal Humans podcast and it was about the men's and women's game, it was quite tricky for me to stay up to date when a lot of the games end up clashing. Both were in the
Oh.
Champions League, getting quite deep into the competitions. It was a lot, so I ended up stopping that. But I did talk about both the men's and women's game because I have an equal passion for both. Like I love both the men's and women's side. I love Arsenal as a whole, but
Hmm.
definitely like sort of talking through my experience of why I actually got into liking football, playing it, watching it. It is all through the women's game.
Okay. So you felt like it was a bit, but it's true because men and women game is clashes. You have a lot of competition. We're not talking just the league. We're talking FA Cup, Champions League, EFL. It's a lot. So is there any chance that I don't know, maybe you could have given it to somebody else to carry on your behalf, or you're just gonna close it completely? Because I sort of liked what you did. It's nice to see both like up to date, with Arsenal both sides. Is there any chance that somebody can take over the reign instead of stopping it
I'm
completely?
I mean, it's not something that I've actually considered because I sort of just started it. I mean, I was doing it for like a year and a half. Started a year and a half ago because I was like, okay, I want to learn how to be a better presenter, better in front of camera, better behind the camera, editing it. Also, then having to create thumbnails, having to plan it. As in, it was just me doing all of it. So I kind of feel like if I was to do it again, or if the Arsenal Humans podcast was to carry on, it kind of I'd want it to come from me because I
Yeah,
kind of created
understand.
every single angle, and throughout the whole thing, the only times that other people would necessarily have a say is if maybe I was looking for advice or if I had guests on the actual podcast because obviously that was their authentic voice. But for me, I feel like yeah, it will. It's not it's over forever, but as in for now, I just feel like it doesn't really work and it's not as aligned with me. And I feel like over the last 5 years in the industry, I think I'm quite good at I do things, and then when it gets to the point where I'm like, okay, maybe I don't want to be in this space anymore, or maybe this space isn't as aligned with who I am right now, then I'll just be like, sorry guys, I'm gonna exit this space. So then it was kind of weird doing it with my own podcast because I sort of just had a word with myself, had a word with a few
Mhm.
close friends, family members, and I went, yeah, maybe I should probably just stop doing this for now, because it just didn't feel like the right thing to carry on. But never say never. It could come back in the future. And I do feel like it's quite rare, like why I wanted to create it. Sort of you touched on it is it's a platform that I don't feel like many people really create, especially like Arsenal fans. I hadn't seen many Arsenal fans that support both the men's and women's side and would talk about them equally. So I feel like that's why I sort of wanted to put that platform out there. But there are definitely some upcoming podcasts that do that, or some amazing podcasts out there that talk about just the men's game or just the women's game. So
Yeah. But like you said, your one was different. I've never seen, like you said, a podcast where you talk about both of them equally. To be honest with you, I do agree with you. What I came to this country about 2 decades ago, but I do know, like the last decade, Arsenal was definitely on top. They were winning the league on a yearly basis. Like it was all about Arsenal, Arsenal, Arsenal. Do you think it's good now that we have more competition, or you just prefer the Arsenal dominance in the women's side?
It's really tricky because as an Arsenal fan, I'm like, no, I want us to win everything. But sadly, I also, well, not sadly, I'm a huge fan of the women's game. So obviously, I have the lens that I just want the game to keep growing and I want it to be so competitive. We've managed to create quite a big rivalry with Chelsea over the last, I want to say, decade maybe, over the last 5 to 10 years, where they almost were unbeaten in the league for the last 5 seasons. City now have stopped that. But even United, they've created a women's side in 2018. So fairly recent, but they're even competing in the WSL. I think it's so good for the game that these teams are now competing and it's not always just one team winning. Kind of same if you look at the Premier League, it felt like City were quite dominant in recent years, but now with
Yeah,
Arsenal winning it, it's sort of like, okay, this is sort of up for grabs. Like United look like at the end of the season in the Premier League, they look like they were getting stronger as well. So it's sort of like, okay, next season is going to be exciting. I think for the women's game, it's good because you're constantly having to grow. And I think if you look at the fan bases, Arsenal are definitely far ahead. We have the biggest fan base in the WSL. But in terms of on the pitch quality, it's pretty even. It's sort of divided, the table's divided into three sections, I want to say. And at that top section, it's fairly even that I think next season it pretty much could be anyone between Chelsea, City, Arsenal, United. Even I think London City Lionesses, with some of the signings that they've been rumoured to have, I think they could even be up there as well. So I think ultimately it's very exciting. But yeah, sadly from an Arsenal perspective, I'm like, oh, I wish it was just Arsenal up there.
I agree. I mean, seriously, I like the diversity. You never know who's going to win, but there's a legacy as well for Arsenal, the women, because they they have dominated for a while. But even recently, I like the fact that in Europe, the Champions League, when they won it, I think last year, yeah, they won against Barcelona. Nobody expected them to beat Barcelona, especially when you think the Spanish, the Spanish team for the women, they're fantastic. I was like, that's a big push, but they've done so much, and I do believe there's so much more they're gonna bring. So let's not rule them out yet, but I do believe that men and women this year they've done very well. Like seriously, it's a very good year to be Arsenal fan, wouldn't you
No,
say?
100%. And I was even saying on my podcast, like the last episode, when I sort of was like calling it a day, basically, I was saying that I feel like I've picked the perfect time to talk about Arsenal because in the year and a half that I spoke about them, the women won the Champions League, the men won the Premier League, and I was like, what more could you want? Like that is so good. That obviously we always want more trophies, but I
Yeah.
think the fact that we managed to get those trophies after so many years without those trophies, it just felt really nice. So hopefully that sort of carries on.
And what do you think the women, Arsenal women, can tell the Arsenal men to win the Champions League next time? Because that's the one key element missing for the men one.
Mhm.
Seriously, and I was so heartbroken, like everybody else, when we came up short again. So, what do you think would be the message as an Arsenal fan, and what would the women say to the men? Come on, what can we do to win it?
To be fair, I feel like they need to talk to each other because we need to get the women winning the league again, and we need to obviously get the men getting their first Champions
Yeah,
League trophy. So they sort of need to help each other out somehow. But yeah, I just feel like completely, yeah, it was just completely heartbreaking, like you said, when watching that final in the Champions League, and I was like, oh, this was so close. And the thing is, it came down to penalties, which I think should be no way to decide anything. Obviously, that's the rules and that's how it played out. But I just think that's the cruelest way to lose in a Champions League final. So yeah, ultimately, I feel like they did as much as they could. Maybe in that 90 minutes, we should have been more attacking and we could have done more within that 90 minutes to prevent it going to penalties. But it just felt like it just wasn't our day at all, which is so frustrating.
yeah, yeah.
Hopefully next year we can improve on it.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. I think there's a lot of room for improvement. And also, when you look at Arsenal, the men one, the team, we're not big spenders like City or Chelsea. We're not yet that level, but I like that they've grown the players and we see
Mhm.
the results. So it's all about hard work. It took time, but I love that the hard work, organic, it just worked. Do you think we're gonna add more players upcoming seasons? And which part do you think we need more reinforcement?
I think there's going to definitely be a few players that are leaving. Like, I think
Right.
the likes of Jesus, I reckon he will probably be leaving us very soon. And I know there's been a sort of debate the whole season of Havertz or Gyökeres, who do you want up top? Are either of them even that good enough to be up top, or should they work together? So I feel like that is maybe a space that Arteta's probably going to rethink that. Maybe we might find someone to come in that out and out striking role. I think in terms of the wingers, we've kind of got quite a bit of depth in that
Yeah.
space. Midfielders, maybe we could add another midfielder in, but I do feel like with the likes of Rice, Erdegaard, maybe whether he stays or leaves, I'm not really sure, but I do feel like Rice probably will be captain. If it's not this season, maybe next season. So he's solid there. We've got Zubimendi obviously coming in, and when I think about it, I could probably list so many because I do feel
Yeah.
like a lot. I think it's maybe just certain areas like maybe a left back, maybe a striker that we could work on. I don't think when I look at other sides in the Premier League, I'm thinking, right, United, they have about maybe 7 different positions that they need to strengthen. For us, I think we've only got a few, but maybe because we won the league, we're not really focusing too much on all the cracks that we've seen previously because we managed to get it over the line. So I think maybe just, yeah, more of an out and out striker would hopefully help.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
So,
fingers crossed.
fingers crossed. So I've seen you. You've been presenting sometimes on Sky. I think I've seen you on Sky Sports. I do
Um,
believe.
To be fair, I've made a few appearances. They're very far and few, like it's not regular at all, but it's
Oh,
been
not
nice, like,
yet.
to go to the studio. You never know where it's going to take me. But yeah, it's been quite nice. Like, I remember my first time going on Sky, I think it was about 3 years ago, and I was sat in my uni room, and I just set up my laptop, and I was like, I have no idea what to expect because it was on Zoom pretty much like this, and I just set it up, started talking. I think that was when I'm pretty sure that was about the men in the Champions League a few years ago, which obviously didn't go the way we wanted it to either. And then and then since then I've had a couple of appearances, but talking more about the WSL, about transfers, looking ahead of the seasons, which has been really good, like very pinch me moments. So that, yeah, feels pretty surreal, but they're kind of quite far and few, like I said at the start. But I'm very happy and like very grateful that I've had those sort of opportunities, because I do feel like in this industry there's a lot of who you know, but also I those sort of just came about from me posting on Instagram, and then someone who worked at Sky just reached out to me. So it's very much like I was manifesting it, putting the hard work in, and then it sort of just ended up happening without me realizing that it was about to happen. But yeah, I had a few appearances.
That's amazing. And you're still working in Talk Sports, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. I do.
So,
We've actually started a new World Cup show, which is called the S Word, and I'm loving it. It's really nice to have that sort of fusion between the US and England, and just sort of make it so that everyone can watch the game. Because I think, as we've seen at this World Cup, it should be a game for all, and there's so much controversy, there's so much going on around the game, and I think there's so many fans. Like, we look at the Scotland fans, we look at the Dutch fans, we
yeah.
look at so many fans that are bringing everyone together and supporting each other, and that's what football should be, and that's what the World Cup should be. So it's been really nice to be able to work behind the scenes. I'm vision mixing it, so basically just changing the cameras, everything you see visually, from social media clips to the actual live show. That's sort of the output that I do, and it's been really fun to be part of a team. I feel very valued, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and it's nice covering obviously the World Cup too.
So who do you think's going to win the World Cup?
Oh, that is a tough question. I mean, obviously, I feel like Spain was a favourite at one point. Now I'm thinking not, after obviously the opening game last night. And I don't know. I just feel like there's so many twists to this World Cup already, which I love. I personally love it,
Mm.
because I'm like, I don't want it to be predictable. I don't want it to be the predicted four final four that everyone thinks, and then it's like, oh, okay, who's going to come out on top, and it becomes down to like individual players. For me, I do feel like going into this tournament, Portugal is definitely one of the favourites. I feel like they have a very good chance. Sadly, I'm not too optimistic about England. I don't think that England, like a lot of my friends are saying, it's coming home, and I'm like, I don't think so. I think
Mm.
we'll definitely be able to reach the quarterfinals, maybe the semi-finals, but I'm not sure about the
Oh.
rest.
Oh, sorry about that. Oh, sorry, somebody
It's
called
all
me.
good.
Oh, good. So,
Um,
England, you say semi-final, quarterfinals.
yeah, if I was having
Oh,
to predict that, but as a whole, I do feel like Portugal have a very good chance. So I'll probably
wow.
stick with Portugal until an upset happens or something like that. What are you thinking with it? Because I feel like everyone's got very different views.
Well, I love your opinion. I'm Portuguese, so I love your opinion. So thank you for
Okay,
that.
nice.
But at the same time, the one downside about Portugal, the attack, I don't think we have. I mean, the midfield, we got it on point. Defense, we've got Nuno Mendes running the show. This guy's amazing. He's one of the best, I think. But the
Mhm.
attack, I think we a bit short. But then again, there's twists and turns. We don't know. But I know one thing: this World Cup is already exciting, so exciting. So I'm so
Yeah.
happy. So my last question for you, my lovely, what would you say to young people watching you in how they can reach what you have reached so far? So being a sports journalist or working sports, what would be your advice for them?
It's such a funny question, because I feel like I'm still improvising, and when anyone's able to give advice to me, I'm just absorbing it like a sponge, wanting to learn as much about this industry. I just feel like the thing that's worked for me is that I go where is aligned, and I go where I feel seen and I feel valued, and I feel like I'm constantly learning. The minute I was actually on a project working on some shows a few months ago, and I felt like I was just constantly like doing the same thing. I don't feel like I was growing. So I feel like going to spaces where you can grow, like the show I'm on now, I'm learning so many new skills. So I feel like ultimately go to spaces where you feel like you can grow, but also just stay true to you. And if you can't do an opportunity, it's okay. Like, you don't have to say yes to every single thing, but put yourself out there as well. So I feel like that was a lot of advice, but
Yes,
that's
a
like a
lot.
little. the
Thank
little
you. Thank you.
helped me along the way so far, but I'm still so early on. So I'll maybe if I come back in like 5, 10 years time, I'll give you some better advice than that.
That's
But early stages, that's I guess what I have to say.
that's amazing. I think what you're trying to say is that we need to follow you and see what you're up to, because you look like you have so much more to give. You still have a long journey ahead of you, which is amazing. I love that. I want to say thank you so much for your time, Lucy. I hope to see you one day in person at the stadium or anywhere. I hope,
Yeah.
because you sound like a wonderful, lovely, open person. We need more people like you. So thank you so,
Oh,
so much
thank
for your
you.
time.
Likewise, I love the energy from this podcast. So yeah, thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. We'll keep in touch and thank you so much.
Yes, all good. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.